What is up guys, it's your boy Cameron Bash here and I'm coming at you guys with a new series on the channel that I'm going to call something along the lines of How I'd Book, where I'm going to take WWE events, both past, present and future, and I'll book them in a way that I think would be best. Today I'm focusing on The Undertaker, and more specifically his 30-year anniversary. WWE has been teasing for most of 2020 that The Undertaker is now retiring and that he is coming to Survivor Series to say his final goodbye. Not only do I think that's a bunch of stinky cheese, but I feel as if WWE have something much bigger planned, and if they don't, my thoughts make for some pretty good fantasy booking either way. So here we go. Now, on top of WWE teasing The Undertaker's retirement all year long, there is another storyline that has gotten just as big of a build as this one. It's a guy who has been here for most of 2020, not really taking any time off due to the worldwide situation we're all currently going through, carrying the company on his back in some regard, to deliver some of the most interesting and compelling stories at a time where many other people weren't doing the same. And that guy that I am talking about is, of course, Randy Orton. Randy Orton may have had his greatest year of all time in 2020, not only having a great character and storyline, but also having some great matches along with it. Orton started off the year as part of the Royal Rumble match, where he was eliminated by one of his greatest friends and rivals, the returning, rated R superstar, Edge. After Edge eliminated Orton from the Rumble, Orton enacted his revenge on Raw the following night by tricking Edge into thinking he wanted to reform rated RKO and then attacking his neck with a steel chair. This was the rebirth of the legend killer character that so many people loved from Randy Orton's past. This attack on Edge kicked off one of the most personal rivalries WWE has seen in a long time, as the promos Randy cut during this time were nothing short of fire. Often speaking about Edge's family, wife and children, telling Edge that he was doing this for him because he loved him and didn't want to see a younger star try to make a name for themselves off of Edge's injury. Very twisted stuff. One of the more exciting and twisted segments of this entire story was when Edge's wife, Beth Phoenix, confronted Orton for the attack. At which point, Orton blamed Beth for the attack, claiming it's her fault for letting Edge back into the ring, before RKOing her as well. This all led to an epic last man standing match between the two at WrestleMania, which is still held by many as one of the better matches of the night. Following Mania, Randy took some brief time off as the uncertainty surrounding the worldwide pandemics continued to mount. He quickly returned though following Money in the Bank, in what seemed like an effort to reboost fans' excitement for the product, by having a defined star return at a time where a lot of stars were headed for isolation and lockdown. Randy returned restarting his feud with Edge, stating that Edge was able to beat him in a fight, a la the last man standing match, but could he get the job done in a straight up wrestling match? Randy Orton vs Edge, the rematch, was then booked for Backlash, and they did something quite interesting and bizarre with this match, as they promoted it as the greatest wrestling match ever. This was obviously going to be a lot of pressure for the two performers involved, to go out and deliver a match with such a title, especially considering Edge has not had a normal wrestling match in around 10 years. But despite that, Randy Orton and Edge went out there and they had, in my opinion, one of the best matches of 2020. While of course it wasn't the greatest wrestling match ever, it was pretty damn good, and everyone walked away from that match pretty much universally agreeing that they had done what they set out to do, and with it, Randy Orton reclaimed his victory over Edge with the devastating punt kick. During this match, Edge unfortunately suffered another injury, which would see him leave WWE for an extended period of time, as he hasn't been back since. It was this moment right here that really defined the rebirth of the legend killer, where he had tried and failed to keep Edge down at WrestleMania. The unfortunate injury that Edge suffered in this second match meant that he would be staying down indefinitely this time, which gave a lot of weight to the legend killer gimmick, and WWE didn't waste any time capitalizing on this. Following Backlash, Randy Orton got to quick work eliminating even more legends, having unsanctioned matches with the likes of Christian and The Big Show, and attacking the likes of Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair when they least expected it, all while cutting maniacal and twisted promos, spitting in the face of these legends. After killing these legends, Randy Orton turned his sights to the now WWE Champion, Drew McIntyre, in what was at the time the biggest match of 2020. you had the legend killer, Randy Orton, on the hottest year of his career, going one-on-one with the WWE Champion, Drew McIntyre, who was also on the hottest year of his career. Drew was the light to Randy's darkness, in a very similar way to how John Cena used to be, being one of the only people who could go toe-to-toe with the Viper. After defeating Randy Orton twice, once cleanly and once in an ambulance match with the help of the legends Randy had taken out previously, Drew finally lost the championship to him at Hell in a Cell, making Orton the brand new WWE Champion. Now to me, this moment right here was a big moment that Randy Orton needed to cap off his 2020. After eliminating so many legends, including Edge, Christian, Big Show, Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels, to have Randy Orton not win any of these matches against Drew McIntyre would have been a real waste of momentum. Randy needed to win this match. And now here we are, on November 21st as I'm recording this video, almost a week removed from Monday Night Raw, where Randy Orton dropped the WWE Championship back to Drew McIntyre ahead of Survivor Series this weekend. Drew McIntyre will now go face to face with Roman Reigns, in a match I'm really looking forward to, as I think Drew and Roman work really well together, and with their newfound attitude that each of them have, seeing them compete again is going to be a good time. But where does that leave Randy Orton? What could Randy Orton possibly move on to at this point in time to keep him relevant and finish out 2020 strong, headed into WrestleMania season at the start of 2021? This is where The Undertaker comes in. On November 22nd, 2020, at this year's Survivor Series, it will have been 30 years to the day when Undertaker first arrived in WWE. WWE have done an amazing job hyping up The Undertaker for this weekend's Survivor Series, as they have had media outlets all over the world covering 30 years of The Undertaker, all giving thanks for such a legendary career. They're creating such a massive feel-good type of atmosphere here to get people ready for what is looking like The Undertaker's final send-off. I see it playing out a little bit like this. Late into Survivor Series, maybe just before the main event, The Undertaker is going to come out to the ring to give his final goodbye to the WWE Universe. After a few words on the microphone, Undertaker will begin to take off his gear, placing it into the middle of the ring for one final time, as we've seen him do before. As Undertaker looks up at the screens of the Thunderdome that surround him, the lights go out. Just like The Undertaker has turned the lights out on so many superstars in the past. And when they come back on, Randy Orton will be mid-chair swing, smacking The Undertaker in his now exposed head from where he removed his hat or bandana, depending on what he wore to the ring. Randy Orton then viciously assaults The Undertaker in an attack eerily similar to the one he unleashed on Edge earlier this year. Orton is out to kill The Undertaker, to kill this legend. After an assault with the chair, Undertaker begins to climb to his feet, only to be hit with the most devastating 3 letters in sports entertainment, the RKO, before backing up into the corner to hit him with a punt kick. Referees and doctors start running down to the ring as Orton looks on and laughs. As the refs and doctors begin to help Taker, out of nowhere, Orton slips in with another punt kick, keeping the legend down. The refs and the doctors go crazy, trying to get Orton away as he laughs to himself in the corner. Randy collects the chair that he attacked Taker with and rolls out of the ring, headed for the back. But as he gets to the stage, he changes his mind. He turns, quickly paced back to the ring with the chair in his hand. When he gets to the ring, he starts swinging it manically, clearing the ring of all the referees and doctors as they flee in fear of the legend killer. Randy then throws the chair to the floor as Undertaker rises to the crawling position, where he is then hit with the third and final punt kick that Randy Orton will deliver tonight. Orton looks down at Taker, licking his lips, salivating at the mouth, before becoming a lot more serious, with a dead look in his eyes as he looks down at The Undertaker. Randy drops to his knees and takes the head of The Undertaker into his hands. He stares into the eyes of the dead man, before looking back up at the WWE Universe around him. He looks around with a sense of sorrow in his face, before looking back down at The Undertaker and saying to him, "I had to do it." He then drops Undertaker's head back down to the mat, before leaving for good this time. Randy Orton would then come out on the following Raw and grab a microphone. He'll pace back and forth in the ring for a while, bringing the mic to his lips at many moments, only to drop it back down to his side. Finally, he'll bring the microphone to his mouth again, and he'll say the words, "I had to do it," before dropping the mic to the mat and walking away. Over the next few weeks, Randy Orton is going to be pre-IMA, not showing up a lot, with Raw teasing the status of the Viper and when we will next see him. It's announced that Randy Orton will appear at TLC, where he'll be speaking his mind about his attack on The Undertaker. The TLC pay-per-view is a great place to do this, as you tease the possibility of Undertaker retaliating at this moment. But of course, that's not going to happen. Taker really needs to sell this as one of Orton's greatest assaults, just like Edge did at the beginning of the year. At TLC, Randy reveals to the world why he did what he did. He tells everyone that the Legend Killer began with The Undertaker, and so, it will end with The Undertaker. He says that time and time again, despite being battered and broken, despite not being able to go as good as he used to, The Undertaker keeps coming back, and it's time for him to just go away and die. He finishes by telling everyone that we will never see The Undertaker again. We then fast forward to the Royal Rumble event, where Randy Orton is in the Rumble looking to reclaim what he lost to Drew McIntyre. We're going to book Randy as one of the guys who could actually pull this out of the bag and win the whole thing to get his rematch with Drew, but when it comes down to it, he won't make it to the end. That is because we're going to have The Undertaker return in this match, in the same form we saw him in at WrestleMania 36. Randy Orton is in the ring, and has been in the ring for quite some time, entering the match in the early stages, lasting towards the top 5 or 6. This is where the number 30 entrant enters the match, and it's none other than The Undertaker. Randy Orton looks as if he's seen a ghost, and can't believe that The Undertaker is here. Taker stares him in the eyes before charging to the ring. Undertaker starts punching the crap out of Orton, boxing him all around the ring. Undertaker then sets up for a chokeslam, which Randy Orton gets out of, retreating to the ropes. Taker storms at Orton, eliminating both Orton and himself from the Rumble. Taker then continues to smash Orton on the outside, chokeslamming him through 2 different announcer tables before leaving. Orton comes out the next night on Raw irate over what The Undertaker did to him at the Royal Rumble. He repeats some of the words from TLC, confirming that The Undertaker is once again on his hit list and that he will take him out for good, once and for all. Randy Orton then challenges The Undertaker to a match at WrestleMania. Undertaker responds to Orton's challenge, but not in person. A quick lightning bolt strikes the stage, and where it struck is an urn. Randy Orton walks to the stage to collect the urn, and when he picks it up and turns it to see what's on the other side, he can see his own name engraved on the side of the urn. This is Undertaker's symbolic way of accepting the match with Randy Orton. As the weeks go on leading to WrestleMania, The Undertaker will continue to play mind games with the Viper, distracting him during his matches with little tricks such as fire going off, lightning being summoned, the lights going out, etc. This all comes to a head at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, where Randy Orton is set to go one-on-one with Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship, as he never got his rematch following Survivor Series. During this match, The Undertaker once again distracts Randy Orton, but this time, he does it by putting an image on the screen of The Undertaker standing over Randy Orton at WrestleMania 21. This allows Drew to hit Randy with a Claymore kick for the 1, 2, 3. Following the match, as Drew has left and Randy gets to his feet, the lights go out for a final time, and when they come back on, The Undertaker is there in the flesh. He chokeslams Randy Orton into the mat before picking him up to hit a tombstone to finish the segment. We then get into the home stretch of this feud, where Randy Orton is looking to enact revenge on The Undertaker for his constant tricks and distractions. The next night on Raw, The Undertaker is on Raw to fully address Randy Orton, but as he is about to speak, Randy Orton appears on the Tron. He taunts The Undertaker, telling him that he's the dead man in the WWE, but outside of that, he's just a weak, old man. with a weak, normal family. The camera then pans backwards and reveals that Randy Orton is outside of The Undertaker's home. The same home that they've made such a big deal out of showing us throughout 2020 with all of the different media appearances that The Undertaker has done. Randy takes an axe and chops down the front door, Shining style, before going on a tear inside his home, destroying everything in sight. Undertaker is enraged in the ring, going red in the face from anger, kicking the ropes as there is nothing he can do. Randy Orton then comes across a large portrait of The Undertaker, his wife Michelle McCool, and their daughter. He looks at the portrait, gives a quick glance to the camera, before cutting up the portrait with the axe. He looks at the destroyed artwork on the floor, before leaving the property. The last shot of this segment is the destroyed portrait of The Undertaker's family, all chopped to pieces at the hands of Randy Orton. The following week on Raw, Randy Orton is there, and he gives us some reasoning for his attack on The Undertaker's home, telling the WWE Universe that he told The Undertaker that he needed to go away and die, and since he didn't do that, there will now be consequences to pay. The lights then go out, and when they come back on, The Undertaker is stood in the ring, looking at the hard cam. He then slowly turns to his left, where he sees Randy Orton now standing on the outside of the ring. Before he can do anything about it, the music of Retribution hits and they begin to swarm the ring as Randy Orton looks on and laughs. It becomes clear that this was Randy's plan all along. Retribution surround The Undertaker in the ring before attempting to swarm him. However, they are no match for The Undertaker. He quickly dismantles the goons of Retribution with his strikes before hitting a series of chokeslams on them. After taking out all of the goons, Ali jumps from the top rope onto The Undertaker, who catches him, flips him around and hits him with a tombstone piledriver. The Undertaker then turns to Randy Orton, who has now fled further into the crowd area. Taker does the cutthroat to Orton, as Orton looks on in shock at how Taker just dismantled this entire group. Later that night, The Undertaker is seen leaving the arena and he's attacked by Orton in the car park. After beating down on The Undertaker, he drags his body over to where Undertaker's motorbike is before slamming it down on top of him. The next Raw after that, we're going to raise the stakes even further as Michelle McCool is advertised for Raw. Undertaker is not here tonight due to the attack by Orton last week involving the bike. In a very similar way to that of Beth Phoenix, McCool is going to come down to the ring and question Orton on his actions. Why did you attack our family's home? Why do you keep attacking my husband and the father of our child? Orton then comes down to the ring and repeats the words he mentioned all those months ago. I had to do it. He explains to McCool that it was his duty to remove The Undertaker from WWE because The Undertaker is too selfish to remove himself from the WWE. He then explains how Michelle McCool and their daughter are part of that problem, even telling McCool that she's just like Beth Phoenix, egging on a broken man for your own sick fantasies. Randy Orton then says to Michelle, say hi to Kaya for me, the name of Taker and McCool's daughter, before hitting Michelle with an RKO. The personal levels of this feud at this point in time are at an all-time high. Of course, Randy Orton isn't going to be attacking any children anytime soon on WWE TV, but how do we get as close to that feeling as possible? You do that by having him attack that child's home, by attacking that child's parents. You cause that child to have a completely shattered and broken family life, which in turn just feeds into the mind of Undertaker himself, making him more and more enraged, but hurt by the overall situation. On the final Raw before WrestleMania, Randy Orton is in the ring, telling people how things are going to go down this weekend at Mania against The Undertaker, and how this is going to be the final time any of us are going to see him again. Of course, The Undertaker comes out, and it's in this moment he finally gets his hands on Orton for the first time since the Elimination Chamber. He beats the crap out of Orton, putting him through tables, barricades, smashing him with weapons. Randy Orton will get a little bit of offense during this, but for the most part, it's just a relentless assault on Orton at the hands of The Undertaker. This assault then finishes with Taker tombstoning Randy Orton on the top of the stage. Undertaker then goes down to the ring, where he grabs a microphone. He says that he hopes Orton is able to feel at least a fraction of the pain that he has been put through over the last few months. And that at WrestleMania, Orton's time will be up, as the stakes have been raised to the ultimate climax. Undertaker then announces that the match that they will have this Sunday will now take place inside Hell in a Cell. This makes perfect sense and fits perfectly for this feud, as this level of feud, getting the Undertaker's entire family involved, is just so unbelievably personal. It needs to have a big match to finish it off. Also, both men are going to look really good coming into this match from a storyline perspective. Undertaker goes hand in hand with Hell in a Cell and hasn't had one in a good few years now, so it would be nice to see him in one again. Randy Orton, on the other hand, will have proved himself just 6 months earlier inside the Hell in a Cell against Drew McIntyre. They could have easily had Randy win at Clash of Champions to then have Drew win it back at Hell in a Cell to set up nicely for Roman vs Drew at Survivor Series. But they didn't do that. They specifically gave Orton the Hell in a Cell win, and that could be to set him up for another Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania. This would also be a wonderful place to make a non-red Hell in a Cell return, even if it's just for this one match. After entering Hell in a Cell, Randy Orton and The Undertaker will have a hellacious match to go along with the nature of their hellacious feud. There needs to be weapons, blood, even some fire if they can pull it off, all the bells and whistles to make this match insanely over the top. I wouldn't really do anything involving leaving and climbing the cell with this one, as I don't think it's really needed to add anything to the feud, so it should just stay inside the ring. The finish of the match should see Orton pull out the same axe that he used against Taker's family home, and as he swings it at The Undertaker, Taker scoops him up into the tombstone piledriver position as Orton loses the axe and then drops him down into the mat for the piledriver for the 1, 2, 3. And there we have it, guys. That is how I would book Undertaker's 30th anniversary. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, as it did take quite some time to put together, so if you did, be sure to drop a like rating on the video to let me know. Also, let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think of this booking? Would you like to see this take place in real life? Or is there something else you're hoping to see out of The Undertaker's 30th anniversary? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video, and if you want to see more like it, make sure to subscribe. Until next time, take care. Hey guys, thanks very much for watching that video. If you enjoyed it and you want to see more from me, then I'm live on Twitch most days of the week. You can find a link to that down below, along with links to both my Twitter and Discord server, where you can find out when I go live. I look forward to seeing you over on a stream.